Hi, this is Ian Hatton, formerly of Bonham, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Ian Hatton.
Yeah, formerly of Bonham.
Bonham, and worked with Paul Rodgers and
many others, yeah. So this was an interview that dove deep into his career. A fantastic interview. Not only is he an accomplished musician, but what else does he do on the side?
Just been working in music, mixing for TV and film. And
brewer.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's get right to it.
All right, good
night. Ian, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Ian, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for all the lines of communication and getting this done. We're excited to have you, so let's get right into it.
Okay.
Yeah, over the last, 10-plus years, you've been creating and mixing new music for TV and film. Can you talk a little bit more about this journey into the world of the TV and film industry?
It sort of started. I was producing stuff up at a studio called Longview up in Massachusetts, which was a beautiful studio, like a live-in studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a guy who worked at Bose, and from that making a very long story short, this guy, Steve Ruggieri, I did some work with Bose, and then I met a guy from PBS, and then I started doing stuff for PBS, and I was enjoying it, and then it kind of just snowballed from there, really. Just like I started looking for film stuff, and it took a long time, and it still is, but I really enjoyed, I really got into the whole, creating for picture sort of thing. It's a roller coaster. You get something and then you don't. But I do enjoy the creation. That's being given a picture and write to that.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So, do you get a chance to maybe preview a little snippet of the show, or how does that work exactly?
Oh yeah. I get the show or the film, and then literally work to that. And some directors have like a really good idea of what they want, and may have like a temp track in there, and they'll be like, well, we really want it to sound like this, or which is interesting as well, to sort of try and recreate a sort of feel. And then other directors are just like, do your thing, you know. So I enjoy that, you know, the creative side of it, just like kind of, you know, tough sometimes, but
yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, talk about, I guess, maybe your feelings about the, you know, the contrast of recording music for album opposed to recording music for TV and film.
It's not, I mean, well, it's not so much, the recording is not that much, is kind of similar. It's really the creation that's different. It has, you know, it's all changed so much over the last 20 years as well. Do you know what I mean? It's which is what drew me into film, is that the still being able to create and record. I mean, obviously, I have a studio at home, so I can do everything like kind of a one-man show. If the budget's lean, if there's more in the budget, then I can get people in as well. Yeah, I mean, you know, what I used to love was being in a band and going into a studio and recording, and that whole camaraderie thing, which, you know, is sadly, everybody's doing it, you know, like in their own studio, like, oh yeah, I'll do my bit and you do your bit, and it's like I really, really miss that. And I've had many friends, obviously, from the same era who do, and producers, and it's just like, yeah, it's like we don't get, like, that studio actually up in Massachusetts, Longview, there was such a family, and that whole side of it just doesn't barely exist. It doesn't exist anymore.
Talk a little bit more about, you know, the technology in recording now. Like you've said, is like going into a proper studio is not needed. Everybody's recording their own parts from home and emailing them and Dropboxing to one another, and opposed to getting into that proper studio and working it all out together. Is that good for the music business?
I honestly think it's terrible. It's great in some ways, and it's great. Like I wouldn't be able to do the film stuff if that technology wasn't available. So, but I honestly, you know, in terms of actual music and music quality, it's like everything is so stale and you know, corporate, because it's just like, yeah, I'll do my bit and we'll auto-tune it and quantize it, and you do your bit, and, you know, I mean, you know, obviously there's some people that are still doing it the right way, but it's, as much as the technology is amazing that you can, you know, I can work with a guy in England or Australia and you know, share files and record stuff. The whole human interaction side that has disappeared is kind of upsetting.
Well, and you miss out a little bit on some of those old road stories where you'd hear of somebody being in the studio and they find a piano in the closet. I can't remember who that was we talked to, but they found a piano in the closet, and it turns out it was like Janis Joplin's piano or something.
Exactly.
And they pull it out and wrote a song on it, and it was just like, you know, it gave them goosebumps. You know, you miss out on those kind of things.
Yeah, the crazy things that happen in the studios that you get into, and you know, it's that sort of family really is that whole vibe that you just don't get, and then with doing it separately, you know, there's no band. I always loved being in a band. To me, that's just fantastic. And then going on the road, and then you were with a crew, and you all had like a mission. It was like, you know, I miss that a lot, and it's not, but it doesn't, I'm sure it exists for some bands, but not many, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just wanted to take it back a little to, I think, 2016. You were Emmy nomination for Bard in the Backcountry, the original music score. Can you talk a little bit about that nomination and what that meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. It kind of came right out the blue. I didn't realize it was even in the works, but the director of the film, well, the writer of the film, she had obviously entered the film in. So it was fantastic, just to be nominated. I was like, and it was different. I did that all acoustically, which was really enjoyed. I developed this sort of three-piece of my own, if you like, which was acoustic guitar, tenor guitar, and I think sometimes a dulcimer and sometimes a mandolin, but it was like this kind of little trio that was just really sweet for the film.
Nice.
Well, you were known as in the lineage of shredders of the 80s and the early 90s, right? And with that being said, being in that, maybe lumped into that category of guitar shredder, how was the adaptation for you to go from guitar shredder to scoring music for TV and film?
Yeah, I mean, I was never. I will say I was never. I'm never a shredder. I could never play that fast. I always came from the blues background, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of, honestly, I don't even know where to start. How that track. I've just always been somebody that's kind of, when a door opens, you go down it and see where it ends up, and that's really how the film stuff started. It was just, in terms of actually writing, it obviously, it does it's more involved because I'm writing keyboard parts and drum parts, and or as in that the Bard, just acoustic parts, depending what it needs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess maybe the question would be on a satisfaction level. Are you as satisfied scoring music for TV and film opposed to that of being in a band and creating new music and albums and et cetera?
Good question. and I'm torn on that because if I could have the Bonham days back, that hands down, that's the best time I ever had. It creatively fun tours, but then when I started doing touring with other people and not when it's not a band, I realized that I was like, I wasn't enjoying it because I wasn't creating anything. And that's, it was kind of a hard, sort of a hard lesson because I wanted to be out there and play, but I wasn't in a band anymore. So when you're into that hired gun situation, and I didn't like it. I wasn't, you could be on a nice tour, but be miserable because really all I was doing was a gig, which was, an hour and a half, or, at the end of the night sort of thing. Whereas when you're in a band, that's your life,
Absolutely.
And so in that sense, that's where the film music came in, is that it's I know it's just me, but at least I'm creating again,
Yeah. Absolutely. Jeff, go ahead.
Let's see here. I'm going to take it way back. 1983 or 1981, 1983. There was a band, Weapons of Peace. I think you worked on guitars with a couple of their albums, and it's more of a reggae sound or band. Can you talk just a little bit about that experience and the compare and contrast reggae and rock guitar?
Yeah, I mean that was fantastic. That whole time. I think I was like 17 when I joined Weapon of Peace. Yeah. And we did a couple albums. They were just a great bunch of guys, and I was like the sort of blues, basically the white blues player, which and it was fantastic. We had a great time. But it was they were sort of like Weapon of Peace was. They were actually around before UB40, but the I mean it was they were doing stuff before UB40, and bottom line, I think reality they were like basically a black band with one white guy, and UB40 was a much whiter band. Yeah. And that really, I didn't really realize that until I was kind of involved in it. You know what I mean? That actually, I was just a kid, and it was. I didn't realize that at the time. That was so,
Well, for sure.
But a great band, really good band. I loved reggae anyway. Reggae and blues are, kind of next to each other. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess kind of pushing things forward, later in Jeff Beck's career, you were the opening act for him on his tour. What year did you open up for Jeff Beck, and, how did that opportunity come your way?
That was, that wasn't long ago. That was only about 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was Debbie Bonham, actually Jason's aunt. Okay. So John Bonham's sister, who I was in a band with, like when I was about 19, I think. No, probably I don't know, early 20s. We had a band together, and then she was doing stuff, and we've always been good friends, and she had a band, it still does, the Debbie Bonham Band, and the most of the band was playing with Paul Rodgers. It's kind of a weird situation, playing with Paul Rodgers, who I played with, but Debbie had the chance to open up on her own, so she asked me if I'd come and do like a duo thing with her. Which was very scary. But how could I turn down A, her, and B, being out with Jeff Beck, which was just the probably most memorable times of my life in terms of guitar. It blows my mind every day that I think about it.
So cool. Yeah. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, just to follow on that, you mentioned working with Paul Rodgers. I was kind of looking back at some of that stuff. The Paul Rodgers and Friends live at Montreux. I was watching one of the videos there, and I'm a big Brian May fan, and I think the song "All Right Now." Can you talk a little bit about sharing the stage with some of those guitar icons?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, Brian, we played that tour. We played in London. We did a couple of nights at Hammersmith Odeon, and he got up with us both of those nights. And then when we were doing Montreux, he's like, "I'm flying out there to get up and play again." such a nice man, and he was one of my Queen was I think it was probably like one of the first or second records that I bought, like the original Queen album, then Queen 1.
You, like you said, you performed with the likes of Paul Rodgers and company, and Robert Plant's Honey Drippers, and you're talking about like two giants in the music industry. How did those experiences, I guess, maybe evolve you as a musician you are today?
I mean, both incredible. I mean, obviously, Plant is like Robert Plant is just like. He's insane in every way as a both a performer, writer, and still just keeps going on. Do you know what I mean? He never looks back, which I find truly amazing. That he's just always on to the next thing.
Well, you bring that up. It was kind of curious that I just read an article interviewing with him and Alison Krauss about his, I guess maybe his slight embarrassment of his songwriting when he was early in his Led Zeppelin career, and Alison Krauss she kind of replied to that as like, hey, you evolve as a songwriter from as a kid into an adulthood. I think Robert Plant never gets the accolades of songwriting that he should. Can you talk a little bit more about him as a songwriter? What of that you know?
I mean, totally agree. I mean, I've never had the pleasure to sit down and write songs with him, but I just have the utmost admiration for what he's done career-wise, that he's always gone forward. And I mean, if you look at his career, it's pretty incredible that the stuff he's done. After Led Zeppelin, I mean, obviously you can't take Led Zeppelin out of the equation, but you know what I mean. It's like everybody else kind of just. A lot of people are just sort of happy to just, well, I was in one of the biggest bands in the world, and sort of, you know what I mean, just kind of not rest on that, but just that defines them, you know what I mean. But with Robert, he's always looking for new stuff, new influences. But I've never written with him, so but
fair enough. Jeff, got the next one?
Well, yeah, I mean, being a big Jason Bonham fan, and the two albums that you worked on with him, I was not as familiar with Motherland, Peace for Me album from 1994. Can you talk a little bit about that band and your interaction with them?
Yeah, I mean, Jason, because we're all from the same area, so Jason is one of my best friends. Yeah. And we just, we honestly, that time period was just fantastic. We had an absolute blast. We were very lucky that we got we had a record deal almost made for us. It took us a while to find the right singer. But we had Bob Ezrin in place as producer, and he was great because he really, at that time, we thought we were a band, but we weren't as much of a band as we needed to be. And Ezrin really kicked our asses. And, on that first album, he sort of put us through our paces to be a band.
Mm. One thing that fascinated me about those first two Bonham albums was Daniel McMaster's vocals. What a vocalist he was. Talk a little bit more about working with Daniel in the studio and his vocal range.
Daniel was fantastic. I mean, his range was, to put it in, I think we'd not. I'm trying to think of how long we worked with him, but I feel like he pretty much came down, and one of the first things we sort of jammed was what we were calling an instrumental, and Daniel started working on it with us, and that ended up being Wait For You, which was which
Yeah.
which was the main single. But he was but again, just a kid. He was, he was a couple of three. He wasn't. I remember he couldn't even go to bars then, or technically he couldn't go to bars. So he was young, but vocal range was unlimited.
And I'm pretty sure you've answered this question a million times, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Those two albums still kind of hold their weight today for rock and roll purists, as myself and Jeff are. But for you, what can you tell us? Why did that band of those four individuals not keep going? Was it a record label thing? What happened?
It was a combination of it was just a bad combination of things. After the first album's success, we took way too long to make the second album. And I think halfway through it, we changed managers, and and Sharon Osbourne was managing us. And basically the record company were looking for like more sync, because we definitely went more, progressive with the second album, and the label wanted more singles, so we went back into the studio to write their hits, if you like, and during that time, basically the Nirvana came out, and the whole rock scene started to change. Daniel was struggling with his with all sorts, just being in the industry. So he's having problems with his voice, and so that when we came to tour that album, it was tough. It was really tough because we had to postpone things, and then we finally got out and toured the second album. But it was all, I feel like it was all happening as like the sort of grunge era was coming in. And I think if that second album had come out like a year before, if we'd have got it out, and that second album would have established Bonham, I think we'd probably still be here. Or I hope we would, but because of the way everything went, the record company lost faith then. So it just kind of not petered out, but Daniel was having problems.
Let me interject to this. Is like
rough time.
We speak to a lot of artists that talk about that early '90s, that Seattle scene. I hate to use the grunge term, but the grunge term come in to the business. I just hate it, but it's a fascinating time to see. Within like a couple of months, the industry totally switched to what their interests were. For you as the artist during that time period, how frustrating was it for you to see it switch so fast?
Totally. Yeah, I hated it, and we didn't. I mean, even in the Bonham days, we didn't like people we hated being called a hair band. You know what I mean? Because to us that was like, that meant you were like pop, if you like. And we didn't see ourselves as that, but maybe we were, but we didn't see that. And then when the record companies just basically were just looking for, when the whole grunge thing came in, it was like just turning a switch, and it was like, if we were Def Leppard, you're way established at that time, so you're not going to go away. but we just weren't big enough. We had one really, the first album did fantastic, but the second one did okay, but it didn't, the timing of it was just really bad timing.
I agree.
So we talked a little bit about Bonham and Motherland and working with a couple different vocalists there, but you've also worked with a band called Lux and another female artist, Eileen Rose. Can you compare and contrast working with female singers versus the male singers? Is there any difference in your style or writing, or that doesn't matter?
No, not really, to be honest. No, both of those projects were great. Yeah. No, I mean, just. No, I don't really find it any different at all. Lux, Katrina was, had like, she was a rock. She was like Janis Joplin anyway. So, which was, and then Eileen Rose was a completely different kind of genre, but again, really, really good, really great songs. She's more of a singer-songwriter, you know.
Fair enough. At this part of your career, how do you view yourself? Do you view yourself as, songwriter first, musician second, producer third, or where in the lineage are you right now? Do you still the musician first? How do you view yourself in today?
Right now, I'm a brewer first.
We'll get there. You just hold on. Don't jump on us. We'll get there.
No, I mean, musician. I'm always going to just say musician because I mean, I love producing, I love writing, but at the end of the day, I'm a guitar player. That's who I am.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You had alluded to the label of being a hired gun, and we've interviewed so many artists that's what they do. They're just a hired gun. They hop to one project to the next project to the next project and so forth. And you've already kind of talked about not really enjoying that process. But for you, could you have ever seen yourself being the artist and as being a hired gun instead of a band member?
No, I mean not for two reasons really. One, like I said, the creative side. That's like most of it for me, and I'm not. And then the other side, which I would always get like totally panicked with hired gun situations, depending what they were, is that I'm not musically trained or anything, so I'm just everything is by ear. So I'm not a good hired gun because I've got to learn it. You know what I mean? Which to me is the best way. But I'm not going to jump in and read charts and stuff like that.
Oh, very good. All right, so we got one last question for you because you almost let the cat out of the bag, but we're going to talk about it now. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, you built a small brewery. Take us on that journey of becoming a microbrewer.
Yeah, it's pretty wacky. But I've always missed the beer from back home. Yeah. Good old cask ale. Mm-hmm. And so I'd been sort of playing around with, making beer, working with the brewery a little bit back home. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, well, what am I going to do? So like, it just seemed like I don't know where it came from, but it was like, I'm going to make a decent sized brewery, underneath the house. And, that's what I did. And then, I read some blog online that said it, some guy that had done it, but didn't get planning permission first and then couldn't get a license. So I was like, so I got planning permission first and then I got all the licenses to do it, the New York State liquor license and so it's a crazy project. It's not like a huge moneymaker, but it's like a passion. Again, I love it because it's creative. I've got it in a few bars around here, and now and they're in Beacon, and there's a place now in Mount Kisco, which is an English pub that's open, it's just selling like hotcakes. It's crazy.
So what is the name of your beer or your brewery, and is it something that's just going to stay local, or do you plan to expand?
It's Old Glenham Brewery. Is the name of the brewery. It's a good question. I do not want to be in some big, venture. I honestly don't know where it's going to go. It's doing really well right now. But if I don't want to have a big brewery, I want it to be. I want to try and kind of keep it the same, which is creating and being in touch with it all. I don't know if that's possible, but.
Well, I got to tell you, our area where Jeff and I are from are just inundated with microbreweries here.
Yeah, we love them,
and we are constantly going to the different locations. So maybe give you a good reason to come here and establish your brewery here where we're from, because it's a hotbed of microbrews here in this area.
Where are you?
We're in what's called the Quad Cities. It's right on the Iowa-Illinois border, Midwest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We're right on the Mississippi River, so we have microbreweries in the Iowa side, and we have microbreweries on the Illinois side, and we constantly are doing these festivals for microbreweries and for tastings and this and that. So it's kind of like a hotbed of microbreweries. So, yeah, I think you need to come here.
Yeah, that's I guess my dream with it would be is to not have one big brewery, but to open other breweries the same size, small and local.
Nice. Absolutely. Well, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
No, I think that's good. I think we covered most things.
Very good. Well, this is how things are going to work out. We kind of talked about it at the beginning of the podcast, is that once Jeff, the editing ninja, cleans up all of my boogers tonight, and I got a lot of boogers tonight, he'll make it sound...
And hopefully mine as well.
Yeah. But once he gets it all cleaned up and makes it sound like $1 million, and like we're like on like syndicated national radio here, we'll send it to you immediately, and please share it wherever you possibly can.
Absolutely, I will. Yeah, absolutely, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we are so
great getting to know you.
Yeah, excited to have you on tonight.
All right, brilliant.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right,
thank you.
Cheers.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Everybody grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.